Hey you guys, what's going on? It is Livid. Hope you're all doing very well today. This week's vendor reset is completely stacked with really good items, so I'm going to go ahead and get started inside the terminal. We're checking out the blueprints this week. Right away, we have the Lightweight M4 blueprint, so make sure you guys grab this week. It is the best item blueprint that you can obtain in the game. So farm Phoenix credits, get the blueprint. I promise it's worth it. This is the best gun that you could use across any build in the game. So make sure you guys pick this up. We also have the extended magazine blueprint this week. Really good to pick up if you don't feel like wasting credits on buying them whenever they're for sale, like inside the Dark Zone or something. You can just craft them instead. Next, we're heading over to the base of operations at the advanced weaponry vendor. We do have an extended magazine here. I just wanted to showcase. It is a bit on the lower end for magazine size at 116. The max is 121. However, the minimal attributes of reload speed and rate of fire are very high. You're not missing out on that many bullets with a 116 mag size, so I think it's worth mentioning if you guys don't have any good ones just yet, or again, you can just buy the blueprint and craft them instead. And finally, we're heading over here to the gear vendor. This vendor is selling an electronics mod on 5% increased kill XP. These are really good to throw on those increased kill XP builds for Tactician. I have a build video for that I always leave linked in the description. When we're done here, we are heading over to Camp Clinton. We did get extremely lucky this week with RNG, and the Lightweight M4 blueprint is for sale inside both vendors. So pick your poison, they're worth the same price, just buy whichever one you end up in first. We also have the MG5 blueprint for sale here, perfect to be crafting for Lone Star builds if you are looking for something for that. And finally, we have the Pro Red Dot sight blueprint available here. These are critical hit damage sights, and they pretty much slot in very well with any kind of build that you have. So definitely buy and craft these if you need any of these. Before we leave Camp Clinton, I just wanted to showcase this Liberator with Destructive, Focused, and Responsive. This could work out pretty well for some kind of striker build. You can just roll focused off for something like ferocious or brutal or even deadly. Predatory would also work out very well too. Next, we're heading up to Wolves Den. This vendor has a really good angled grip that I would use for Sentry's Call, specifically for the Urban MDR. It has a really high stability roll with optimal range and critical hit damage. There's also a sight that works out very well for this that I'm going to showcase later, but I would definitely recommend buying these if you're looking into Sentry. Next, we're heading down to Madison stand. This vendor has our only electronics damage to elite mod this week. It's 195 with 3% damage to elites. I always recommend buying any damage to elite mod that we get and continue upgrading them as they become for sale. These add tremendous damage output value, so definitely buy these for your Tactician builds. I promise that it is worth it. Speaking of damage to elite mods, we're going to head over to Southpaw. This vendor has a firearms mod, 198 with 3% damage to elites. Unfortunately, we didn't have a 4%, but the fact that we even had a firearms mod on damage to elites to begin with is very good RNG. We haven't seen firearms in a while, so make sure you guys buy these. You can slot these into almost any build and make them work. Our first Dark Zone checkpoint is East 61st Street, and this vendor has that sight that I was mentioning earlier for Sentry. It's a CQ BSS scope with 13.5 stability, which is very high, as well as optimal range and headshot damage. If you had to pick one or the other, if you're running stability mods, I would choose this one over the angled grip that we had earlier, but either one of them works very well. I just recommend this one more because it has headshot damage as one of the minor attributes, and that works out very well for Sentry. Next, we're heading down to Park Avenue, and this vendor has a First Wave X45 with Responsive, Deadly, and Adept. This is actually really good for PvP if you guys are looking for a good PvP weapon. Comparing the vectors to the other SMGs in the game, they do usually have higher base damage with lower rate of fire. So if you don't yet have the house, this is a really good option to slot in for it until you find one. Just roll off the bottom Adept talent for Unforgiving and you're all good to go. While we're in this checkpoint, we are going to head inside over to DZ08 Saferoom. This vendor has a really good inventive backpack for sale. It already has an electronics roll with skill power. Just roll bleed resistance off for either disrupt or for ammo capacity, and then this is perfect to slot in for your Tactician builds. Next, we're heading down to DZ East 53rd Street. This vendor's selling a fan favorite G36C with Destructive, Deadly, and Focused. I'd probably recommend rolling off Focus for something like Brutal or Ferocious. We're going to head down to East 46th Street. This vendor's selling a rugged mini reflex sight with all the rolls that you could want. We're just missing half a percentage on critical hit chance, but that percentage is just so rare that you might as well consider 7.5 the max. Heading a little further down to East 40th, this vendor has a 5% ballistic shield damage resilience mod. With D3 coming up next in this global event rotation on Monday, I would definitely recommend picking these up if you can or crafting some of them. These are the best mods to be using for your D3 builds unless you're going to be using shield damage. We are almost done here. We're going to head across to West 39th Street. This vendor is selling a small RDS scope, again with a higher stability roll and a maxed out roll for critical hit chance and damage. This would probably work out really well for console players. I know that some of you guys like to use the stability scopes on your ARs, especially in PvP, so I would recommend buying this one because it does have really good critical hit chance and damage rolls. And our last stop is going to be on 5th Avenue at the Dark Zone, the very bottom. It's going to be an ACR with Destructive, Commanding, and Brutal. There's a couple different things you can do here. You can keep Commanding and roll Determined on the bottom, and you can use this for a Commanding Determined Striker build, or you can roll off Commanding for another PvE talent, and this will work out very well if you don't have a lightweight M4. But again, we do have those blueprints for sale, so I would just recommend buying the blueprints instead and crafting a lightweight M4. There you guys have it. That is this week's vendor reset. This week, like I said, is just stacked. There's really good gun options. The lightweight M4 is for sale inside both safe houses, as well as 2 different damage to elite mods being for sale. Make sure you guys get these items, and if there's nothing for you this week, there is always next week. I will talk to you in the next one. Have a great rest of your weekend.